it's not only the oldest medium, I'm pretty sure it's the medium that's going to be there the longest because it's in the real world, and all the other TV or digital ads, if I put away my phone, they're not reaching me. But out in the street, yeah, you're always going to reach people.
Welcome to the Beyond the Billboard podcast. And if you haven't yet, please do support us by subscribing. Today, we are going inside Out of Home of the Day with Phil Blondé, our VIP guest. If you haven't yet, we highly recommend checking out his LinkedIn profile to see all his daily out of home inspiring posts through his Out of Home of the Day initiative. Over many years, Phil has celebrated inspiring, impactful, and creative work through his Out of Home of the Day initiative. And in this episode, we'll be exploring how he selects the work that he features, what has been the most inspiring campaigns he's ever seen, as well as what is the common mistakes that brands and marketers and agencies make when approaching the medium as out of home. Hi, Phil. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Kirsty. Thank you for having me.
We're so excited to get into this episode with you, and we are avid followers of your platform. And I was even going through it today as prep for today, and I was just watching and reading all these amazing Out of Home of the Day posts, and it really is the place to go for inspiration. So thank you for this initiative that you work so hard on and continue to inspire us avid, passionate lovers of the medium. And I wanted to ask you, Phil, for those that aren't familiar with you and your journey, could you please share a little bit about yourself and why you created the Out of Home of the Day initiative?
Sure. That's a big question. I created it by accident, I think, or by to tell a bit about myself is that I used to work in advertising. I started in advertising really young, and I always knew from the beginning that out of home was my favorite medium. But when I started in advertising, it was just billboards, mostly billboards, and once in a while a street ad. But then guerrilla advertising started to come up, and there were more and more installations, and it started growing. And I really thought this is just the most fun medium because it's out there in the real world. You can't skip it. It's there. So people cannot just ignore it. You can walk past it, but it's there. And I really like it when I see an ad in the street and it makes me laugh or think or just react in some way. And it just makes my day a bit more fun. That's when I really like it. So a certain day, a couple of years ago, I think my laptop gave me there was like an announcement on my laptop, and it said, "Oh, your hard disk is full." And I said, "This is weird. My hard disk is full. I don't know why." But since the beginning, since I started working in advertising, I always kept any idea that I found about out of home, and I always put it in like the same folder. So I kept collecting all these out of homes. And at a certain point, I had too many. And I had two choices, or I could just put it on an external drive and just put it somewhere and then it would be there. Or I thought that I can just also start sharing this inspiration on LinkedIn because I thought LinkedIn was a bit gray and a bit boring. So I just thought why ideas are there to be shared. So I just started sharing them. And I think in the beginning, the out of home of the day is just something that I never thought about it as it's going to be like this thing. No, it became my title, and it's easy because I think in the beginning, a lot of people did not know what out of home meant, OOH. And everybody thought it was like, oh, of the day, like just a wow of the day, but it wasn't. And now it's also just catching on. So it's actually something that just happened just because I like the medium and I started sharing inspiration because that's what it's for, no?
I love hearing how, often businesses are formed or great ideas come from this like accident. I love your story of how, your hard drive was full and that was your signal to like, hold on, I could actually do something with all the, like you said, instead of just parking it into the cupboard and getting another hard drive, you decided to make it into the out of home of the day.
I just started dumping it online. Yeah, that was the idea. I'm going to dump it every day. So people, and also with the idea, I thought out of home was a bit boring sometimes and just a bit more, it's too much of a simple ad in the street. And I said, oh my God, there's so much more possibilities. I think I should share this inspiration so other marketeers and brand owners and media owners can see the possibilities, because there's a lot of ideas that are not shown in other countries. So I thought this would be a perfect place to share ideas from all the way in India to Australia to Belgium to all the different countries, sharing their best ideas is just a great way of making better work.
Yeah, I think your advertising background also helps to, the things that maybe caught your eye or made you think about the principles behind advertising and behind creativity. I think you look at, the advertising you see in out of home with a different lens, which I think also adds value to the out of home of the day. I know from a South African perspective, when I've seen South African out of home work being shared on the out of home of the day, I get so excited because, as Chris mentioned, we're avid followers of your platform, and then seeing South African work there, you just feel like, wow, it's a proud moment to be recognized. It feels like on a global scale for work that's done in South Africa. Um, when I have seen South African work and other work on your platform, I often wonder, how do you select, the out of home of the day? Do you have to be nominated? Do people send you things? Do you
No,
find things? So that was my question to you: is how do you
well,
actually go through your selection process?
it's a good question. It's not really a selection process. It's just I still have a lot of work on the hard drive that I'm still using, old work sometimes, and just from a couple of years ago, even longer ago. And nowadays, I get a lot of work sent to me from all over the world, which is also nice because there's a lot of work coming in. And to be honest, there's also a lot of work coming in that I don't use or I can't use because it's just not good enough or just not a fun idea or something that makes people's day more fun. So there's a bit of, it's hard to select, but most of the time, if people send me something and it's just not something I can use, I will also always try to answer and tell them why, and just try to
Yeah.
have them just try to explain them like it's a nice out of home, but it's just there's no ID in it, or it's just a logo on a building. There's nothing that triggers people. And most of the time
Mm.
people get it and say, "Oh, we're gonna try better," and it depends sometimes. But there's
Yeah.
not really a selection. Most of the time, if I see something, within half a second, I know, oh, this is fun, this is good, because that's exactly the way people look at an ad. No, but I think most people are not looking at an ad and looking for the idea or trying to analyze it. No, you have 1 or 2 seconds, and if you catch their attention and they like it,
Mm.
then you have a good out of home. It's really simple. It's just your gut feeling and your normal to try to forget that you're in advertising and just look at an ad and think like, oh, does this do something for me? Is it funny? Is it a nice installation? Does it give me inspiration myself? And it's also really broad because I also like not always advertising. Sometimes it's also just city marketing. If a city does something really nice and just add something to the city that makes people living in the city more happy or something good for them, it's also a really nice way of working with out of home. Because for me, everything that is outside our homes is out of home. And it can be like
Mm.
a funny trash can, or it can be a huge billboard, or it can be like a branded bus. It can be anything. And every day there's new stuff coming in. So I get a lot of drone shows nowadays.
I'm sure.
Big,
I'm
big
sure.
drone shows. Not always. Also a lot of CGI and virtual versions, but that's a bit different because if it's really funny, I think it's good and should be shared.
And it's exactly what you were speaking about now, is that all these touch points of advertising or beautiful scapes, or if it's not even a specific ad, it can be specifically beautifying the city in a way. All of that is out of home, and it is all that media that consumers are engaging with in their outside spaces and worlds and outer
Hmm.
worlds. And that's what makes it so powerful and so impactful. I love that you've mentioned that, you look at it and immediately know if it's impactful or, if it's evoking emotion. I think that's the one thing about out of home that's so great, is it can evoke, the humor, the heart response, the playfulness. And I think that leads me to my question for you is, what are those fundamentals that you believe make for a standout, out of home campaign? You mentioned now if it's just a logo and there's no like linking it back to like a human truth. Like the one thing I love about Heinz and a lot of their artwork is it's so
Hmm.
simple,
True.
but
Yep.
it's linking it back to a human truth, like they're hitting the back of the tomato sauce bottle, or like some of the way that they visually do their out of home advertising. Heinz is so great at that simplification and tapping into that human truth. And I find that out of home that is simple and really tapping into that specific human truth, that's usually what can create evoke an action or an emotion. But for you, based on all your experience and all this campaigns and that you receive and you review and you look at, what do you believe is the most like fundamental background art or science around having a standout out of home campaign?
That is a good question. There's it depends on the brand and what you're trying to achieve. Because if you're, I think for Heinz, it's really clear. They just have a really great brand and a really recognizable brand. It's an icon. So anything they do, and it has a nice insight or a fun idea in it, it will be fun and it will work. But for me, I always try to, if I create out of homes myself, I always try to follow the rule that people have one living environment. It's the streets. Out there, you have your home, but out there in the streets, and you, as a brand, being there in the streets, you have one job, and it's just to make sure you can make people's days more fun, better, or interesting. And that's what you have to do with your out of home campaign. Doesn't matter if you put your logo on there or something else, or just a boring brand, but as long as you make people's day more fun or more interesting, you're doing something good. And the funny thing is that today we can actually, 20 years ago it was different, but today you can actually see it. If you put out an out of home in the street and you notice, even you notice it yourself, okay, you put something in the street, and the first thing people do when they see it is they take out their phone and they take a picture of it. That is most of the time a really good sign, because that means you made something that they want to remember and keep for themselves or share or do whatever. That's nowadays you can see an out of home ad that is just one ad somewhere far away in a different country, and a couple of people will see it, but one person takes a picture of it, posts it online, and then can get millions of views. But to have tips for what makes a good out of home, I think it depends on the brand and on the human effect that you can have on people as a brand in the street. And just try to make people's day more fun and more interesting.
The next question I want to ask you is probably quite a tricky question for you to answer, given that you've told us how full your inbox gets every day and it excites you with campaigns.
Tell me.
But looking back over, the past few years, are there any campaigns that stand out to you as exceptional? Perhaps a creative, or perhaps there was a mechanic or a brand that really spoke to you in a different way. We ask a lot of our guests, what campaigns inspire you or stay with you. But I think given your influx, I'd be very interested to hear the ones that do kind of come up for you.
Well, it's not a hard question because I have several that I know, but they are just based on the fact that those are the ideas that, for me, triggered my inspiration when I was younger. And so these are really old ideas. One of the ones that I always use is that is the Hollywood sign in Hollywood. That is one of the first. The real first out of home campaigns came from the earlier days, from the circuses and the things. But that is an out of home campaign. It was an ad for a development company selling land and houses. I think that is just amazing how an out of home ad can become an icon, known worldwide, and people visit it every day. It was an ad. And then, of course, if you jump forward to more today, I think in the early 2000s, there was a lot of nice work. 20 years ago, there were great, the first experiential out-of-home ideas. One of my favorites, and I've mentioned this before, is the shower, the beach showers of Sprite. It's one of the first examples. It is still to this day, and it's weird. I get goosebumps talking about it. It's really weird. But the Sprite shower, I have no idea who made it, the creators, or where it comes from. But I still think that is one of the first ideas that I saw, like this is something valuable for people. They embed their brand into a environment where it doesn't annoy people. They could have just put up a poster too, but they didn't. They just created something and they added some value to people's day. And then there was also, I remember the fountains of you have the Schweppes, like the tonic drink. They also just put their Schweppes bottle in a fountain and the water was sprouting out. I remember those examples being really simple and clever. And to this day, I still think these are the best examples. And of course, every year there's new ones popping up that are really good. I mean, last year, I think one of the best ones last year was the Lego botanicals, that they just made these flower shops and the little flower structures that you have like a flower shop completely made out of Lego to promote their botanicals. It's really simple, but it works for people. Everybody gets it. And you have a lot of brands that are really good at it. McDonald's makes really good out of homes.
McDonald's does do such amazing work. When you mention them now, like the first thing
True.
that came to my mind was that campaign with the smell the billboard, and you could smell the McDonald's fries, which is such
Ah,
a
yeah,
like
yeah. From
everybody knows the
in
smell of
Amsterdam.
McDonald's
Yeah,
fries. And that
yeah,
I think was in Amsterdam, if I'm not
yeah.
mistaken. And
True.
it was really powerful
Really
to
nice
like have a
work. Yeah,
billboard convey an
but
experience without
and then
branding.
again,
Right.
the idea itself in the street, I'm pretty sure not a lot of people experience the smell, but it's just creating the idea and making a video of it, and then also the story that comes behind it. It's the first
Mm.
billboard you can smell, and it
Yeah.
has a lot of PR power behind it. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure it got a lot more views online than it had in reality. But that's also what
Mm.
out of home does today. Because even now, if you Google McDonald's out of home ads or outdoor ads, you get plenty of ads from all over the world that
Yeah.
are really funny and really good. They have
Yeah.
done great jobs. But there's so many other brands that, I mean, you mentioned Heinz. Heinz is also really
Yeah.
strong. There's, you notice that the brands that are really have an iconic status, if they are sure enough to do it, they can make a really great out of homes. But I think today you see a lot of big brands that are for some reason too insecure to make really good out of home ads, which is sad because
Mm.
they don't have to be. They can do a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah. I think that's really interesting that you've raised that. I think brands that are willing to push the boundaries to create
Of
work that
course.
interrupts, which I loved how you said it earlier on,
Hmm.
interrupts the consumer and interrupts our days. And I think the brands that are willing to push those boundaries are the brands that stand out, that end up going viral online. But I think a
Yeah.
lot of the bigger brands are bugged down by a lot of this compliancy and red tape and levels of approvals and all of that happens that can honestly quite dilute an idea, and can stand out as a big creative idea from a creative agency. And then through that, all those compliances and those processes, it gets to a point where the actual idea
Yeah.
gets diluted and it ends up with just a normal flex on a billboard with brand logo
Yeah, it's
and
true.
sometimes price and product. Whereas because a lot of these ideas, you also need to be, if you're going to be culturally relevant and tapping into current insight in the culture or in the society, some of those ideas you need to move with quite fast. And sometimes these bigger
True.
brands don't always move a bit slower as these bigger beasts that they can be to
Hmm.
honestly get around some of these like really culturally
Yeah.
significant or poignant campaigns that you need to be quite fast with. We have a brand here in South Africa called Nando's, and they are
Uh-huh.
just so fast at like turning around campaigns, whether it be on social media, whether it be on out of home, etc., where they just so uh, on point with what's happening culturally in the market, and that's what the audience loves about them. But what they've done is they've created processes as a brand that allows them to move really fast, to turn around
Yeah,
ideas like
that
that.
helps. Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand what you mentioned, that there's a lot of diluting of ideas, and
Mm.
in most cases, I always try to remember make the brand, if they ask me or if they brief me or if I'm working on a project, is to always choose the weird idea first, because sometimes it's the weird idea that's gonna get you noticed, and not because we want to interrupt people's day in a negative way. No, you just want to be seen and do something that just is worth seeing instead of just mostly being ignored. But that ends up, it doesn't always work. I'm gonna be honest about that. It's not doesn't always work at all. And I understand some brands play it safe because they have a lot of budget and
Mhm.
they're gonna have a safe ID and just plaster it all over the country and people will see it, but they won't remember it. And there's a big difference between,
Yeah.
they're not gonna take out their phone and take a picture of a classic ad that says 1+1 air fryer for free. It's just, I don't know. It's just, it doesn't say anything.
The Mall, the heart of any community in South Africa. A destination no longer dedicated to shopping, but a place where friends and families go for an experience. This is the rhythm of retail. What if we could put your brand in front of them? With Africa's largest digital mall network at your disposal, you can reach millions of SA's most powerful shoppers when it matters most. Reach them with Mall TV.
We're chatting around creativity and campaigns. I wanted to ask you, what is your opinion on what KitKat's been doing in the market at the moment? I know in Cannes this year, as well as
It's
last year, there's
genius.
mention of
So
KitKat.
good.
It feels like they're coming alive. And I'd love to
Mhm.
get your take on what you think of what KitKat's been doing.
I think they're doing a great job. That's as simple as that. I think I remember the heist, the Kit Kat heist with the stolen Kit Kats a couple of months ago, and the way they react to it. I think the Kit Kat has also an iconic status because it's really simple. Everybody knows it's have a break, and any idea that is really funny that you can work with have a break, people get it. You don't even have to show the brand anymore. You can just show
Yeah.
a red billboard with a fun idea and have a break, and people know it's Kit Kat. So I think they're really doing a
Yeah.
great job.
But they keep it simple, and I think the heist this year, last year, they won at Cannes with, turning everybody's phone that everyone was staring down into a Kit Kat.
Yeah, and it's and that is also, those visuals were really you look at them and you feel bad. And that is really strong because you make people
Yes.
feel bad, but then again you make him also feel good, like, oh damn, you got me. You got me
Yeah.
there. And
They've
that
made a
feeling
point.
to get without hurting people or making people annoyed by you, that is really strong. It's just really clever and strong. I think it's one of the brands other brands should look at and say, oh, they're doing a good job. We should try to do the same thing, because I think it's a perfect example. Even in the past, I remember one of the first executions for Kit Kat was the famous bench where you can just have a break, and it was like it's one of the first ones, I think. And I remember that seeing that kind of work is noticing that today we all, without even knowing, we all got addicted to ideas because of social media and constant scrolling and having content everywhere. We all got a bit addicted to ideas, and that's why we react to really fun things in the street. Because if there's something fun, we take out our phone and take a picture because we're slightly addicted to seeing good ideas, which is a good thing, because Kit Kat is one of the brands that understands that.
Out of home is such an incredible medium to play in. Like, we spoke about
course.
sense of smell
It's a
with the
playground.
McDonald's board, and there's ways to play. You tap into different senses, whether it's, visual, taste, whatever, different types of senses. You can get people to climb a billboard, and if we ever remember seeing those as well.
Exactly.
And like, it's just a place that honestly, everybody's lives are not easy, and they're going about their day and there's daily life stress and work and responsibilities.
Exactly.
And out of home is a place where you can interrupt them with a space of play. And I think that's what makes it so powerful. And I love to see brands that tap into that and make it something that does make you stop and take a photo of, like you have been speaking about. And actually, it reminds me of a recent out of home of the day post, which was with the drop everything billboard, which I thought was so simple yet so smart, and it just really made me laugh. It was brilliant.
Because it's something that you, as a person that is not involved in advertising or anything, gets it. Because if the idea is too much of an inside joke on advertising, it's too smart, it doesn't always work. But it's as simple as that, like to drop everything and just get on a flight. People get it, and people also want to do it. I think those kind of ideas, they do something special. That is, they touch your inner child, as in they trigger it, as in because you see it, you get it, and you actually want to do it. You want to drop everything and go. So it just triggers your inner child a bit, and that's what out of home does really well. As you said, it's a playground,
it really does.
and it's only becoming bigger. So it's something that I'm pretty sure in the next coming years you're gonna see some great out of home work, because we are all looking away from our screens more and more, and we're looking at the real world. So there's so much more to do.
I think Liv and I could sit here for another hour, but we would love to move.
If you don't stop me, I will keep on going. I can talk about this for hours. So you have to stop me in time.
We need a part
I'll be
two.
there.
I mean, like, I was even thinking of like the Colesberg ad that you posted also recently with the football post. Like, I think we could just continue because there's three of us so passionate about out of home, and just sharing these ideas just makes me feel so much more inspired, more so, just like when I look at your LinkedIn page. But I think this is a perfect place for us to move to the closing question, which I'd love to ask you, which is, where out of home's at being so much more dynamic and so many more innovations that are coming in, and the trends that are currently happening. Sustainability is a big piece that's so important for out of home. And I wanted to ask, what, trends or innovations are you looking forward to seeing more of, or excited to see, develop in the out of home space, or perhaps a certain type of medium in out of home that you're not seeing as much as you used to, that you would like to see more of, for out of home as a medium moving forward?
I think there's a lot of things changing, but what would I like to see more of? I would like to see more out of home ads and campaigns that improve our everyday lives. Even if it's for like a minute or even if it's for a longer time, if it improves our way of living, our environment, our cities, the way we enjoy everyday life, I think brands should start looking more and more into not the temporary campaign, as in we're gonna put up a billboard, it's there for 2 weeks, and after 2 weeks it's gone, and we had the message. But they can also use these budgets into more durable and long-term inventions, interventions, ideas in out of home. I'm pretty sure there's a brand they're already doing today that they invest their marketing budget in an out of home concept for a city instead of just putting it in posters and then after a couple of weeks their message is gone. So I think there's going to be a big shift towards spending the marketing budgets more wisely, as in investing them in locations instead of just spending them. But that's more
Be
technical.
more
But
purposeful.
there's plenty of trends coming, and I mean every day there's new ideas coming. I would also like to see a return of some ideas. I miss the simple guerrilla ideas, the simple early 2000s guerrilla ideas where everybody can go nuts over a certain sticker that is funny on a car or something. I love those days that a simple small idea can work, but once in a while there's a new one that passes, so it always makes me happy. So the simple guerrilla ideas are still working. And then, yeah, of course, there's plenty of things coming. You see also there's a lot of big things coming. If I look at the Sphere in Las Vegas, that is something from the last 2 years, I think is a huge development in out of home. And I think, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be more of those kind of big structures coming. Do we need that? I'm not sure, but those are the trends that are happening. The same as I mentioned, drone shows and all kinds of flying technical digital things. There's going to be plenty of those things.
Yeah. Phil, I love that you've touched on kind of having this purpose behind out of home, or out of home being used to make your day or your life better or easier. It reminded me a lot of how Jacques Dupree, who is the managing director for Provantage, but also the African ambassador for Woo, how he closed off our episode with him and Tom Goddard is that he quoted Jean-Francois Decaux, who mentioned that out of home is a force for good at the Woo conference this year. And I think that
I agree.
through creativity, you have reiterated that message, which I think is a great reminder for all of us that it's about creativity, but ultimately it's all underpinned by this force for good, whether it's around sustainability, getting the correct message across, or making somebody's journey or commute that little bit more interesting. So I love that thread that's run through from kind of that messaging into this episode. So I think it closes the loop quite nicely for us today.
Oh, well. And I completely agree with that, because I think it's not only a force for good, because in the end, out of home is there to sell products or to sell a brand. But I believe that's a force for good selling and a force for fun selling and a force for interesting selling, as in a different way, but still it's still advertising, of course. But it can be it can change. So I completely follow the force for good.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been amazing to sit down with you. And as Kirsty mentioned, I think just having three minds on this call around who are all interested in about creativity and out of home has been a really fun episode. So thank you for joining us.
You're really welcome. Do you have time for one question myself?
Yes.
What made you guys start Beyond the Billboard? I was really curious to know what made you start Beyond the Billboard. Is it the same sick passion for out of home, or what happened?
I love that you've asked that question. We haven't had a guest ask us this before on a podcast episode, so thank you. Yeah, I think for us, it is a deep passion for a medium that we believe is impactful and drives effectiveness, and can really also, as you said, interrupt consumers during their day in quite powerful ways if used correctly. And as long as creative is fit for purpose and all of that. But yeah, I think Liv and I have a background of many years doing out of home as a medium, at agency side, being heads of out of home. And I think for us, we wanted to have conversations beyond the billboard. And that's why the podcast came
Exactly.
to
Love
life.
the title.
For us, it's a platform to inspire, to educate, and to inform, locally, regionally, and even globally. We hope that we can always shine a great light on such an incredible medium.
I think it's so nice that you're doing it. As I mentioned, I love the title and think that a podcast about out of home, I think it's a great idea, and I hope you keep on doing it, because it's the most fun medium and it needs more I mean, it's one of the funniest entertainment mediums in the world. So love it.
Yeah, I also
Yeah.
just want to add what Kirsta said is around, we are also very proud to be the first and only out of home podcast in South Africa. There's so much great work that's being done in our market.
True.
And I think we also wanted to bring those conversations to life for everybody to level up, but also for everybody to celebrate and acknowledge the work that is being done. Like Africa is such like a gritty, hardworking, like wanting to leapfrog technology markets that we want to really shine a spotlight on that. And I think it's through episodes like this, as well with global partners, that everyone can realize Africa is not a market that's been left behind
No,
or
not
is
at
not
all.
behind in any way.
No, not at all. I think Africa has a very strong out-of-home market. And it's funny because it's all over the world. You can see that. A lot of people think the same for like South America, but there's really strong countries in out-of-home. It's so nice to see. So thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for doing this podcast and keeping it up, spreading the
Yes,
out-of-home love.
thanks for joining us.
You're very welcome.
Thank you to the sponsor of today's episode. Your support helps make Beyond the Billboard possible and helps us to bring you the first and only out-of-home podcast in South Africa.
Thanks for joining us today to go beyond the billboard. Subscribe to our podcast to ensure you don't miss out on our exciting content.
Join us again to go beyond the billboard.
1, 2,